Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you to the organisers for the opportunity today. This is forward. Thank you. Brilliant. Right, so I'm here to tell you about the UK approach to older workers and how we are handling our ageing workforce and what we think our strategy is going to be in the next few years. So I would like to start the presentation giving you a bit of a flavour of how the Minister and our partners, employers, feel about this programme and this issue generally. So if the technology allows, if we can show a little clip that would show a short interview of these three partners that include the Minister, Ros Altman, and Yvonne, who is from Mercer UK, a significant agent who is very interested in older workers, and Louise Griffin, who works in an organisation that's very large and is very engaged in actually employing older workers. So, could you? Thank you.
I'm Ros Altman. I'm the government's business champion for older workers.
I'm Yvonne Sonsino from Mercer HR Consulting, and Mercer is a firm that advises corporates on HR policy and practice.
I'm Louise Griffin. I'm the Human Resources Manager at Stayte International.
It is absolutely vital that we recognise the opportunity that the ageing population represents.
Companies are concerned about cost, companies are concerned about productivity, and in a number of the studies we've been working with clients on, we've found some of these issues are really now myths.
I think in an industry that has a lot of skill, it is important to retrain that skill. And the only way you're going to do that is by keeping hold of your workforce, which are naturally older.
The economic impact of hiring older workers and keeping older workers in the workplace has been proven in many studies. The McDonald's study is a very famous one. I think something like 20% increase in productivity, customer satisfaction by having an age-diverse workforce.
In my experience, there are still far too many businesses who simply write off people because of their age. Just assume that there isn't a need to employ them or that there aren't many benefits for recruiting them. However, I've been working with some great companies on my business task force, and I've met other companies in my role who do get it. They have started to realise that not only do they need to keep older workers on, but there is a business case for doing so.
The working group consists of many companies, from large and to small and medium-sized. I found it particularly useful to understand what some of the large companies are doing in order to address their ageing workforces.
We were actually debating amongst the group as to the impact of employment law on some of the initiatives that employers are starting to do. So sharing our learning, sharing experiences from between each other has made that a much easier step to an obstacle now to manoeuvre.
I think what has been exciting is to be working with businesses who have started to think beyond the next quarter or the next 12 months and looking further out. They've recognised the demographics and the opportunity that that poses, because over the next few years there will be 3.7 million more people in this country aged 50 to state pension age, but at the same time there will be 700,000 fewer aged 16 to 49. We're heading for labour shortages. We're heading for skill shortages. Now, the employers that are planning for that now are realising the reason for themselves to keep older people on, to recruit them and to retain them.
So I think this kind of summarised what I'm going to talk about and gives a little bit of an essence of how we think about the problem. So I'm going to start with the good news, because that's a good way to start. We have more 50-plus workers in the UK now than we ever had before, and we are estimating that we have about 9.4 million 50-plus workers, which is a significant proportion of the population. But the positive messages are that the employment rate of those people is increasing. So in the last 10 years, we have seen an increase of employment for people between 50 and 64. And it's statistically significant, and we think it's going up. So it's a good trend. And even employment for people over the age of 65 has been increasing as well, which is great. And just as a backdrop, this has been increasing while all other ages have been remaining constant. So we know that this is actually pure initiative from employers, from government, from people actually changing their attitude. And attitudes, yes, they are changing. So in terms of the attitudes of employers, we have conducted some research, and we found that employers do value the experience of older workers. They do value how reliable they are, and they do value how they take on a mentoring role for their colleagues, their younger colleagues. They found that the best way to train younger employees and interns and people who are learning a new profession is to put them side by side with more experienced workers and learn on the job, as well as formal learning. So in terms of the actual people who are aging and are thinking about their career in the future, we are seeing an attitude change there as well. We are seeing people choosing to work longer. They see life as slowly winding down rather than a just sudden stop as state pension age, where they take their pension and just stay at home and do all the fun things that they used to aspire to before. So there is a generational shift, which is great, and there is a very significant link between people remaining healthy and people remaining social and remaining happy with continuing working as long as they feel fit to do so. But there's still a problem, and it's a big problem. So we know that when it comes to state pension age and the 10 years before that, 1 in 6 men have not worked and 1 in 4 women have not worked either. And that has a very significant impact because we know that the future workforce of the UK is going to change. The nature of it is changing quite dramatically, not as dramatically as other countries, but it is quite significant. So we know that we're going to have many, many less people between 16 and 49 years old, and many, many more people over 50. So if you're looking to expand your business, this is very, very important. And on the individual basis, if you retire early and you don't work for the last 10 years before retirement age, you end up with a smaller pension pot and a longer retirement age, because we're all going to live longer and we're going to have less money to spread over a longer retirement. Now, in terms of the country and the national impact, there is a very significant impact in the GDP of a country when a large proportion of the workforce is able to work but are choosing or are unable to do so. And our estimates are that if we all work just 1 year longer than we currently do as an average, we would increase our GDP by 1%. Now that is quite significant, because it doesn't require any particular change, it just requires 1 more year of what we currently do in the UK. So Dr. Rosa Altman was our business champion for older workers, and before she became the minister. And we carried out a research, and we published the Fuller Working Lives, a Framework for Action, which was the business case of why we need to do more about older workers and why we need to create a society where working lives are fuller and longer, where it's appropriate to do so. And when we published this study, we found that the top 2 causes why people drop out of work are health and caring responsibilities, at least in the UK. Health being by far the biggest reason. Now, surprisingly, under that, there's various reasons that are never significant enough to make the top 2. But there is an underlying financial incentive as well. So a lot of people retire just because they can and because they can afford to. And a lot of the time we find that the health conditions or the caring responsibilities become a significant reason behind the decision to give up work when there is also the financial incentive to do so. And we also found that there are specific sectors where the problem is gathered. For men, particularly, the 4 sectors are manufacturing, construction, transport, and wholesale, or retail. And for women, it's education, health, public administration, and wholesale and retail. Now, the reason for this distinction is not that these particular sectors do something to people, it's just because there is a gender bias in actually getting jobs there. So it's quite normal that we have this clustering. And the business champion, Rose Altman, made the recommendation about rethinking retirement, and this is summarized in the 3 R's that we are creating policy around, which is retain. The first step is about holding on to all the workers in the workplace and kind of making the most of their experience and not letting them go and not thinking that their life has now, the working life has now ended because they're reaching that age where they should retire. The second thing is retraining them, keeping them up to date, getting lifelong learning initiatives in place and encouraging older workers and employers to invest in training of their older workers. And finally, recruit. And recruit is final because we know that if an older worker falls out of work, it's almost impossible to get them back into it because it's always, always very, very difficult. So we want to focus on the first 2 before we even have to solve the problem of recruitment.
3 minutes to go.
Oh, wow. I'm going to have to rush through this. So this is an example of responses we have been putting together. And I'm going to go through them very, very quickly. We abolished the default retirement age. That means that it's illegal for an employer to mandatorily retire a member of their workforce, and that has made a big change. So flexible working, very important for older workers, being able to adjust around caring responsibilities and health problems. State pension age going up, that was an incentive for people to stay at work. Fit for work service, it's about offering an occupational health system for smaller to medium employers who cannot afford their own HR or occupational health support. Pension flexibilities, allowing people to take out what pension pots they have and set up their own business when they want to move out of one employment type to another, which is quite an incentive when you have the capital to do so. We work with the local enterprise partnerships, which is forums in all the counties. So there's about 39 in the UK at the moment, and it's a combination of local employers, government, charity organisations, and representatives of citizens who look at shortages of skills in specific areas. We're carrying out some pilots, which I will go into further on. We're putting together the Employer Toolkit to help employers become better equipped to train and retain older workers. And we're looking to appoint a new business champion for older workers. And this is the role of government. So we believe in the UK that the problem is not for government to solve. This is not a government problem. This problem is an employer problem, because employers will eventually run out of workforce available to them. They will have to make more out of the workforce they have in existence at the moment. And therefore, it's up to employers to create the right condition with support from government and with a change in attitudes, again with support from government, to solve the problem in a way that suits their business needs. So we do create a lot of communications because we want to pass the right messages and create positivity around the issue, and that's a government role. We are creating a lot of forums with partners where employers and older workers and charities can have more of a say. We offer back-to-work support on an individual basis, so becoming self-employed, getting help to learn all the new skills, to look for jobs in the labour market, which we have talked about extensively, from other countries as well. So we do research and analysis, and we're going to publish a response to the publication that Rose Altman put together, and that will be in spring 2016. Right, the Employer Toolkit is a very simple thing. I wanted to bring it up because we have the Age Action Alliance, which is one of these forums where employers and government and other organizations are represented. And it's about putting together guides for employers in specific sectors on how they can accommodate an aging workforce within their business. And it's very business specific, but also quite general about the needs of older workers that employers do not automatically understand or are able to respond to. And this is the website, this is the landing page, so I do invite you all to go and have a look if you're interested in that. Some of them are under construction, so we are building this at the moment. And this is the Age Action Alliance website. The Carers Pilot Project is a new pilot, well, it's a set of pilots that we are carrying out to see how we can help carers remain in work or go back into work. And it's very localized, so it's very, very different in different areas of the UK, and we haven't got outcomes yet, but it's something very interesting, and I do encourage you to have a look at it and, follow on the results as they come out, because it might be relevant to many countries now that we are all aging and our parents are also aging and we all have to look after them. So it's a significant problem. And finally, the Business Strategy Group is a group that is actually formulated with employers and big businesses. The reason for that is that employers tell us that they do believe messages coming from other companies in the sector more than they believe government. So they're more influential, and it's a more positive way of getting them to adapt new cultures. And out of the business groups, we have seen subsets of task groups on these particular 6 areas, which have been identified by businesses as significant to help older workers and employers. And I just wanted to close with some quotes from employers. I think it's, I'm not going to read all of that, but on the first one, this is McDonald's, and if you focus on the very last sentence, they have got concrete evidence that the customer satisfaction increases by an average of 20% when they have employees over the age of 60. Now, McDonald's is not the obvious choice to go and work when you're over 60, but apparently McDonald's is finding that very useful. The second one is Stayte International. They found that diversity is very key to their success. They need a diverse workforce. They can't just have one type of employees. They need that sort of mixture of experience and attitude and energy and culture. And finally, A.T. Brown coaches. We do have a lot of bus companies, actually. I think it was Belgium that also had a thing about coaches and bus drivers being older workers. It's the same in the UK. Coach companies and bus companies, they absolutely love older workers. They find them more reliable. They are more willing to stay. They get trained. It's a very intense program to get trained, and they are good investment. But what they found is that it's so expensive to recruit new people that they'd rather retain and retrain the current workforce to carry out their needs. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you.